And good evening and welcome to the NT Labs podcast with me, Dave Stevens.
That's got to go in. So, oh, you're
So,
Is our posture okay and everything?
by the end of it, I look like I've got a beer gut and I'm like this in the corner, so it's fine. Just don't worry about it.
You look like that by the start of it.
I hate drinking drinks on camera though. For some reason, I feel normal if I'm not on camera, but the
I'm gonna-
moment
every
there's a
time you
camera
do it,
on me,
I'm
I
gonna do
feel weird about how.
Even what you did last night with your drink, I'm no bloody...
That was.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
I haven't eliminated that from my brain.
caramel espresso martini. And it had this very light dusting of chocolate on the top. She just put it to her mouth just as we started chatting absolute and she went...
It was like a magic show. It was great.
We thought she was going to disappear. We thought she wasn't going to be in the chair.
Every time you take a drink on camera, I can make sound effects for you if you want. I can get.
Subsurface 2. The return of...
Return of the Subsurface, episode 2.
That's good, I like that.
In a galaxy far, far. And then you could. No, anyway.
I sit up straight.
Suck your belly in.
Again. So, hello and welcome back to NT Labs for part 2 of our Going Underground, episode 2.
Not part 2. We've done part 1 and 2 of episode 1. This is episode 2.
Going I've got Going Underground, the jam in my head.
Going underground.
Yeah. It's karaoke all of a sudden. So welcome to Subsurface, episode 2. And on this pod, we're really, really lucky to be able to be joined by Fish Shop Matt, our regular contributor. But more importantly, all the way from Australia, Katie's on her UK arm of her world tour. This is Kaity Cichlids, everybody. So we've put out some messages on our socials and on Matt's and on Katie's socials, and we've got loads of questions for you guys. So thank you very much, firstly, for everybody that's fired questions in. I really hope that we're going to be able to get to all of your questions. I think, guys, let's just start at the top and work our way down. There's some questions in there, some very cool questions. So I think, Katie, really, this one's probably for you, number one.
I'll sit back and relax.
And I don't have a name, unfortunately, for this. This one came in on Instagram. But what cichlids do you love the most? And there's a kind of a link question, favourite species of cichlids that you keep.
Well, I mean, I'd have to say African cichlids, since that's the main cichlid that I keep. I actually don't think I keep any other type of cichlid other than African cichlids.
Yeah, no, just Africans.
But cichlids, there's a variety of cichlids. I think that's what's cool about them. They're a type of very intelligent fish, and so you get the African cichlids from the lakes, but then you get the South American ones. What I do love about African cichlids, though, particularly Lake Malawi ones, is that they're very colourful. And that's the main thing that draws me towards a fish. There's another type of South American cichlid called discus that are also very, very colourful.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
But very finicky.
Oh, yes.
They're quite sensitive. They're not so easy to look after. So definitely Lake Malawi cichlids because they're easy and they're colourful.
I've heard a lot of people say that, like Rift Valley, so African cichlids are the closest thing to marine fish as like colour-wise that you can get. Would you guys agree with that?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And not just colour-wise too, I think even just in terms of the water that they live in. So they live in quite hard water, similar to saltwater fish as well. So high pH. Because what makes pH high, you would probably know more about this.
It depends how hard you want to go into it. But yeah, it's just a mix of minerals that makes the pH and the hardness is higher. So yeah, it's but they are one of the best fish for like colour and ease of keeping as well. Like compared to a saltwater tank, if you want the colour, but you don't want to spend 3 hours a day messing around with your saltwater aquarium, then Malawis are by far the best one.
I think rifts are cool because you just get such a variety, such a mixture of fish. You've got like deep water fish, and then there's species that live in like the shallow around the edges, around the margins, and you can just keep them all in one environment. And it's just, I think it's super cool the way they all just interact with each other. So yeah, it's a great choice. I love cichlids, and I've seen your tanks on your Instagram, and they're stunning, by the way. So,
thank you.
Have you got a favourite one in your tank, like a favourite fish, like a singular?
Oh, yes. Bart.
It changes on a daily basis.
Bart is a type of Mbuna, so it's a full Borny, I think you say.
Nice,
it is.
yeah, like the bent over nose.
Or a scraper mouth Mbuna, they're also called. And I just love how unique they look and very cute.
They are.
Almost like a little elephant trunk that they have.
They've got like a proper like soft, like rounded face, haven't they?
And it looks like they're smiling all of the time.
Yeah, nice.
Very,
okay, I could get on board with that. They're a nice little fish, those.
I'm going to jump from a nice question to quite a controversial one. And this is coming on the socials from Scumfrog74. Love the name, by the way. I've got a question. Why cichlids? They're murderous, angry, hate-filled killers. There's like only 3 that you can put in a community aquarium with other fish without them being completely murdered. Don't you get bored with tank after tank of the same fish?
Well, I mean, to address the first part...
I'm gonna just take a sip of that and ready myself.
I think, it's like people. Like, everyone has their weaknesses. We all make our mistakes. We have our good parts, our bad parts. I think fish are the same. So I think that there's lots of good that come with cichlids too. I think that, yes, they are a little bit murderous, a little bit aggressive from time to time.
Just a little bit murderous.
Just a little bit, maybe very. But I think they're also very intelligent, they're very interactive, they're very active, engaging fish, very beautiful. And then the second part, they said that they're all the same. That's not really true. There's actually... Is that what they said?
Do you get bored with tank after tank of the same fish?
Well, no, because even though they're cichlids, right, like they're classified as that, they're all so different.
Yeah.
Like, especially like Malawi ones, like they all look different colours and everything, maybe with Tanganyikans.
Yeah, I think just someone looking at your, like maybe your Malawi tank from the outside, though, they would see a tank full of colourful fish that all seem to act the same on camera because they're just always busy and always buzzing around. But once you live with them and you'll see different sort of characters coming out, and you'll see some are more dominant, some are less dominant, and you will see different personalities coming out in them.
Yeah.
But to a short video or just seeing the tank in the background, they sort of all look similar and they all act the same. But no, once you get into cichlids, they're a much more sort of complex group of fish, really.
I think that's a really good point. The question mentioned you can't mix them in a community aquarium, and that's right. Certainly going back to our fish shop days, Matt, anybody coming in wanting a pseudo zebra or something like that, but wanting to put it in their tropical community aquarium, like that's a big no-no. Yeah. But why not challenge that, and why not break down the barrier of that and turn it into a cichlid community, which I know, Katie, is what you do. You've got a mixture of fish from Africa in your aquarium, and it is a community aquarium, but maybe not a community aquarium with tetras and live bearers, and it's a cichlid community. Then, you still have the challenges of the territorial nature of the fish, but as long as you manage that and you're creating different hidey holes for them, and especially when you're introducing new fish, breaking the territories, they just find a way, don't they?
Mm-hmm. I think what happens too is people see my name is Kaity Cichlids, and then they associate cichlids with African cichlids, but there's so many other cichlids.
Oh, my word,
in fact, I mean, you can have an awesome community tank of cichlids as well with like angelfish.
Yeah, this is it.
Discus tetras and
I
stuff.
think it was a hard thing to get across to people in the shop, actually. It's like a cichlid is anything from, a shell dweller or maybe an apistogramma that comes from South America, or a shell dweller from Tanganyika that's 5 centimetres or an inch, all the way up to, I know the biggest one in the world is the emperor cichlid out of Lake Tanganyika that grows to 1 metre long and is super aggressive and picks up turtles and moves them.
Yes.
And the problem is there's everything between, little stuff that will go in with tetras, stuff that will go in with other Malawis. And it's cichlid as a word is quite a hard word. It's almost like classing cats as everything from a lion to a domestic house cat. Mm-hmm. You can't call them all cats in that sense because they are all so different. And I think that's the hardest thing with cichlids. Everyone's like, they're so aggressive. And they're not if you get the right ones or you put them into the right setup, like yours.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. They're not murderous. They're really friendly, lovely fish.
Yes.
Certain ones.
Some of them are.
Okay, on to a question here from Minsholes 5027. 2 of my favourites together. Wow, I'm guessing that's you guys.
I've got you, Dave.
Unlikely. I've got a 55-gallon tank with an angel that I've had for about 6 months. Can you suggest other cichlids that I could put in with it? I have plants and a sandy bottom.
Fine.
No comment.
Yeah.
Maybe the wrong person to ask that question to is Fish Shop Matt.
Yeah. There's so many. Obviously, they're going to be going on the soft water cichlids rather than the hard water cichlids like yours. So, you're going down the route of maybe like keyhole cichlids, which are a nice little sort of South American cichlid. You could have a look at some of the Epistogramma species out there. There's loads and loads of different little cichlids that you could get in there. Even if you're going for like a bit more of a bigger community, like the African river cichlid, the crebensis, they would be lovely in there. They would do really well. And they're slightly bigger, so I wouldn't mix them with tiny little fish. But you wouldn't mix the angelfish with tiny little fish. But yeah, I would think if it was me, I'd probably go crebensis if you go in bigger fish, and then Epistogrammas and rams and keyhole cichlids. If
You
you're
say
going
things
for
like festive cichlids as well?
festive cichlids would be a lovely one. Yeah, they'd work really, really well. Or, if you've only had the angelfish for a little while, 54 gallon, you'd probably get more angelfish in there and build up a group of angelfish in there. That would be a cool one. But there's so many. The only thing with angelfish is keeping small fish out the way and sort of long-finned fish out the way, I guess, because they can be a bit nasty and a bit bitey. But,
yeah.
As long as you go for your bigger, broader-bodied tetras and anything like that, that'll be fine. Yeah, it'd be a lovely community. But so many fish you could mix in with them.
Cool. Jasper000. I'm thinking of getting back into the hobby after a very, very long hiatus. I like to keep cichlids that dig, but the idea of putting heavy rock and wood directly on the floor of the tank makes me cringe. What's the best thing to put between the floor, the glass bottom of the aquarium, to put heavy rocks and wood on to disperse the weight?
Have you got anything underneath yours, or did you just go straight?
Both of them are different, actually.
Okay,
so
cool.
For my Lake Malawi tank, I've got really heavy Texas Holy Rock.
Oh, yes.
And what I did was I got pool filter sand because it's really cheap. It's only like 20 Australian dollars for 20 kilos or something like that. I think I got 5 bags of that. So it was really thick substrate bed and just put the rock on top of that.
Yeah.
Which is not generally recommended, I don't think, because they can dig and then your rock can come down. But I just found it hasn't been a problem because it's such a slow process of them digging. The rock just slowly, kind of moves down. The other thing you can do is when Jason from Australian Biotopes did my river tank, he just put like a little fabric mat.
Yeah.
More so because he said that what can happen is heavy rock can sometimes crack the glass just enough. And then if it's got a little weak point, then that can cause bigger cracks over time. So even just trying to avoid scratching it. So just a soft little mat.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do as well is you can get crate as well.
Yeah.
Like, there's like a name for it, like guard
egg crate. We use an egg crate is what you use for aquariums. So it's like lots of little squares that are like that sort of size, and it's a big sheet of it. You would use that in like saltwater aquariums, but that's good stuff. But you can probably get some of the the water retention crates for gardening and things.
Yeah, that's like what it was.
Yeah.
Just using some type of crate to put the rock on top of.
Yeah, that makes sense, to be fair. I think a good one would be underlay for ponds. You could use that, line, or even a piece of liner, to be fair. You double it over, but anything like that to give it protection, I think it'd be fine. I've never known of a tank that has broken because of it, though.
I have.
Have you?
Yeah,
okay.
and it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's really something you want to try and avoid. So I think, as Katie said, if you can put some sort of layer of sand or egg crate or a liner underlay, something like that, that's not going to break down and cause any water quality problems, but it's just going to give that protection because, as you said, Katie, the weak point on the glass just goes pop and all of a sudden you've got hundreds of litres of water pouring out of your glass.
No one needs that.
Nobody needs that. Okay, Michelle, thank you very much for your question. I think this one's really going to go to Katie. I hope Katie's taken some Vegemite with her, and I want to know what you guys think.
You can keep it.
I didn't. But you guys know marmalade here anyway.
With Marmite.
Oh,
Marmalade is like orange jam.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Marmite.
so Marmite, yeah. And you can keep that as well. You can take that back with you if you want. No.
You're so aggressive, Matthew.
Sorry, no, it's horrible. There's certain foodstuffs, and it literally makes my skin crawl. No. What's it? Quavers, Marmite. That's probably about it. But there's
maybe you'd like Vegemite.
No.
Give it a
And
go.
I'm not even going to give it a go. No. Maybe at the end of the video. Hang around for the end of the podcast. Matt might try Vegemite. He won't. But I might.
Thanks for your question, Michelle.
Did you actually bring some with you? Did you?
No, I actually didn't. I've done it before. Like, I got some from my American friends once, like when they came to Australia, but they didn't want to try it. They were just like, no. So
I'll be honest, I don't even know what it is.
it's just salty stuff. Like,
I thought you'd like that.
very, very salty.
On to the next question then.
Probably just go and buy your pizza choices.
That's a valid point, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm gonna stay on food now. We have a question here, and I'll name check who it's from in a second when I find it. What's your favourite cheese?
Shall I take that first?
Okay, cheddar. But only because I'm not really a big cheese eater, to be honest. Like, I'm very bland with my cheese. I actually think I literally stayed normally with cheddar. I'm not just saying that to be funny. So we went to cheddar. Well, we drove through cheddar the other day to get here because we came from the west.
Yeah,
west coast. And so we drove through Cheddar, like, town and gorge.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, but that's where cheddar comes from.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It's called cheddar.
A little Somerset village.
Yeah.
It's really sweet.
Yeah, literally me and you live, what, 20 minutes?
It's
You're in it,
It's
pretty
the
much.
next village to
Yeah,
where I live.
I'm probably half hour away from it, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, they call it villages here.
Yeah, we take it for granted though, don't we? We're like, yeah, it's cheddar.
It's cheddar. It's full of goats. And
Yeah, full of goats and a big cliff face, and that's about it.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
But yeah, no, anything like moldy cheese and stuff, I don't mess with
Oh, I like a mouldy cheese.
You can keep anything with mould on it. Like blue cheese, green, pink, purple, whatever colour is growing on it. Nope, you can keep that. Anything else, fine. Yeah, no worries.
I have to disagree. I love a Stilton. Christmas especially. Oh.
No, it wouldn't make my skin crawl. I'd try it. I would eat it and I'd try it. And if someone served it to me, I'd be fine with it. But no.
How about a plastic cheese? A
Well,
burger cheese?
That's a barbecue essential. That is.
I knew you would be a man for a
that
plastic
one's
cheese.
good.
Oh, good, like a burnt burger on a barbecue, cremated burger that's just got a bit of plastic cheese on top. That's just the best thing ever. Best thing ever. Or a camembert. Camembert, baked camembert.
Baked camembert.
Have you ever had camembert?
I think so.
Like you bake it in the oven and then you dip bread into it and it's all gooey and hot and
Yes, once I think.
that.
Anything like garlicky, sort of garlic bread, garlic ciabatta, dip.
Yeah, that's good.
Different
that.
class. Yeah.
It's definitely in a different class to plastic cheese.
My stomach has been rumbling. I hope it's not going to come up.
No more
Every
food
now and
questions for Katie, please.
So that one was from Fluxant. Thank you very much. That's my favourite one so far. Any question about food, and I'm in, as you can probably tell.
Breathe in a bit, mate.
Okay, just while I look for the next question, just pan a little bit here. Dave Cox asks, can Katie be the first NT Labs ambassador down under, and can you bring your products here? Thanks, Dave. That's not me, by the way. That's Dave Cox.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. yeah, Dave. Sure.
So we've actually had quite a few. I'm guessing these are from Aussie Fishkeepers more than anything else. Saying, when can we buy NT products in Australia? All I would say is watch this space. Go and see your local retailer. Go and talk to us. Thank you very much for the interest in our company. If you want to download our product catalogues, please just access it via our websites. Keep interacting with us on Facebook. And hopefully before far too long, you'll be able to see NT Labs products in Australia.
No, but it is really exciting to see another company as well, like a new up and coming company.
It's hard, isn't it? Because there's so many the reasons behind it, I suppose. And I don't know as much as obviously Dave and other people, but it's just every country's got such different rules and regulations and different ways of getting things in and different ways things have got to be packaged or so many different things. It is hard to be global in some respects. But, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. And I like what you guys do as well. So I had a look around, like the factory and everything. It was pretty cool. Yeah, and everyone's really nice that works here too. So I know it's such a good environment. Yeah, other than Dave. Yeah. Just kidding. No comment.
There's a bit of agenda going on. Yeah.
But it's been great. Like, I wouldn't be here if I didn't like what these guys do.
Oh, thank you very much. It's kind words. Okay, jumping back onto fish matters. Michael Dalrymple says, how important is GH and KH really? My local fish store owner, the Fish Geek, says not to worry too much about it. My fish seem to be doing well, but my water is off the co-op testing strips chart.
Do you do much with your water to harden it, or?
I actually do.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it's necessary.
No.
Because you would know a lot about this. I don't want to steal.
No.
your
I
area
want
of
to hear what you
expertise.
do, because it's interesting to hear what people do.
I do just like to keep the pH high.
Yeah.
So I keep it at 8.2 in my Malawi tank and 8.4 in my Tanganyika tank.
Nice.
I did mess with GH a little bit at one point. Didn't really see a point behind it.
No.
And then KH, I also do add buffer
Yes.
for that
Yeah.
as well. Just because I don't know, I just something sits well with me. I like that idea of, from an evolutionary perspective, if the fish is designed, created in that environment to try and mimic it. However, I'm aware too that fish can adapt as well. Like, it's not something that has to happen over thousands of years.
No,
and you would see this all the time in the stores.
Yeah, this is it. I think that's the hardest thing and it depends what fish you're keeping. Like, for most of your community-based stuff, your standard tetras and your guppies and platies, unless you're buying them from a really serious breeder or they're wild caught maybe or something along those lines, then pH is probably going to be something that you're going to want to pay attention to, and GH. But for the majority of your community species or the tank-bred species that we get, it's really not that much of a worry. Certainly, like, if I was keeping African cichlids at home, I would buffer up the water a little bit, because my water where I'm from is, like, really soft. So I would use a buffer to bring it up, maybe not as high as the lake would be, but somewhere towards it. But it is such a hard question. It does depend what fish you're talking about.
No pun intended.
Yeah,
Hard
that's it.
I was going to say it's kind of different strokes for different fish, isn't it? Yeah. Some fish want a low KH or a low GH. Some demand a higher. For me, KH is one of the most underspoken things about within the hobby. I think it's often been described as the building blocks of a healthy aquarium. And I think, although GH is really important, KH is more important for me. KH is more like the cement that holds the blocks together. Yeah. So without the cement holding that, your pH can swing dramatically. Yeah. Once your pH swings, everything's dead, everything's gone. Yeah. So certainly maintaining a level of carbonate hardness, KH, for me is really important, is critical. But as far as what your fish are actually demanding, not so much. It's more looking after the aquarium water rather than looking after the fish.
This is it. I think if you were in an area where, like, if I lived in an area where my pH was 8 coming out of the tap, well, I'd probably just look at keeping African cichlids, if I'm honest, and all those harder water fish. You could look at just gearing your tank or what you're keeping towards where your water is at home, sort of thing.
Yes, that's actually such a good point you made, because in saying that, like, that's where you might run into trouble. Like, if you had a high pH tap water, you might ignore your KH and just be like, cool, my pH is high. And then you can be prone to having a swing.
Yep, that's it.
But what happens is, because I use a buffer to actually raise my pH, but that buffer raises the KH with it. So then I don't even have to really think about that. Yeah. Whereas the general hardness was something I was raising separately.
Yeah.
So staying on water quality, what would you recommend a very low KH that's coming out of your tap water? And that's from Wirt Sam.
Depends what you're looking at keeping. If you're looking at buffering it up to your level, you're going to have to find some buffers and things to bring all that back up. If you're looking at keeping some really South American, depends how low the KH is, but if you're looking at keeping some, like, apistos, tetras, things like that.
Discus?
Yeah, discus, it might not be so bad. So I suppose it's looking at what you're keeping and where you need to aim. KH is such a scale. It depends where you need to be on that scale and where you're starting. But there's loads of buffers out there that you can
I was going to say, there's loads of off-the-shelf buffers that you can use dead easy. There's other ways of doing it, but it's like non-measurable. You don't know if it's clean. You don't know if it's biosecure and stuff.
Exactly. Like, you always hear people, I've seen it on a few Facebook groups where people are like, put some coral sand in, or put some oyster shell in to, like, buffer up everything. And it's like, but I don't know how much to put in and how much buffering capabilities that's going to have. So yeah, I'd say, really off-the-shelf buffers if you want to buffer it up high, a bit like you're doing at home, I guess.
I believe it's easier to go higher with things than it is to go lower.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I guess you're kind of blessed if you've got low pH and KH, because you can have a more, like, a wider range of fish and plants that you could keep. because if you ever wanted to make your pH or KH higher, you can do that quite easily. Whereas you're kind of stuck if you have a high pH.
Yeah,
KH.
you are stuck with it, aren't you?
It's going to be tough bringing that down all of the time.
Kaity, just sticking on that really, this is just from me, it's come from the conversation that we're having. So Matt and I spoke about this last time we sat down on the couch here about water quality at home and how it comes out the tap. Is taking water straight out the tap a thing in Australia? You just like feeding it straight out of the tap into your aquarium, obviously once you've put your conditioners, etc. in. Because I know in certain parts of the world the tap water's just not acceptable for fish keeping. So tell us a little bit about Aussie water and how you guys do it.
I think it varies. So I used to see when I was on Facebook a little bit more in some of the groups, like some people in Sydney would have some complaints about their tap water. I've heard some people in Brisbane sometimes say things about having nitrates in water and stuff. Yeah. I don't actually check my tap water regularly at all. I think I checked the pH once, that it was a 7.8. I've never checked anything else in my tap water, never do. But it is a bit of a risk that you take when you're using it straight from the tap, because sometimes you can have things that go wrong. In general, though, I have found that it's been pretty reliable in Brisbane.
I guess that's the beauty of the hard water fish. Once you've measured it once, you know the water's coming out the tap and it's acceptable for the fish that you're keeping. You don't have to worry too much about making any changes or amendments to the water as far as softening it or hardening it. You know it's great for the fish that you're keeping. And just crack on with it. But...
Yeah, I think if you have like an extreme weather event in your area, it's probably good to check then, because sometimes that changes things with the dams and everything.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, I think you can find, like, we get weird anomalies in tap water sometimes and different pHs, and when they're like cleaning the pipes and flushing through stuff through the system to clean it, we then get like a high spike of pH or something. And you just got to be careful, really.
Okay, question from Peter on Facebook. What's the hardest thing about being a fish keeping YouTuber?
Where to start?
Yeah, just all of it. No, it's not. It's not that bad. You go first. I'll be interested to hear your answer to that.
I honestly think it's not even to do with the fish. It's just to do with YouTube. The hardest part about it is YouTube. Just in terms of, like, I love doing it, but it does take up a lot of time. So I think that it means that you constantly have to be working. But not only that, I think there's a bit of stress involved with it in terms of a lot of data, a lot of analytics as well involved. And you can try not to worry about it too much, but it's kind of hard to do that.
Yeah.
It's very hard. So I think that the fun part is the filming and the editing and everything, but then the more stressful part would be the making sure I actually provide good content and that, the algorithm with YouTube is liking what I put out there.
It is. It's such a weird thing to be a part of. And obviously, in the background of YouTube, when you log into the app, you get a lead, like a scoreboard, don't you? Like a lead board. And they've got green arrows if you're doing well, red arrows if you're doing badly, if your subscribers are up or down or your views. Yeah. And it does get quite addictive and quite, it can be consuming. You could, and I just, cool. As long as it's sort of vaguely green at some points, I'm happy with it.
Yes, at some points, because it's not linear. So there's an ebb and a flow. You're always going to have points where everything's green. So you're doing well and everything, and you're like, this is great. It's a great feeling. But what goes up must come down with the analytics.
Exactly.
So everyone's going to have periods where every arrow is going down as well.
You've just got to, and you've got to not let it bother you. As long as you've got content going out and you're having fun making it, that comes across in the videos. As long as you're having fun with it. But it's
just a balance too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's a weird world to be part of, definitely. Mm-hmm. And I don't find it that much because I really it sounds bad, but I just don't let it bother me. I don't care, if that makes sense, because otherwise you sort of end up going through and you're looking at click-through rates and it gets a bit pressure. And
if you start to get too much into it, caring too much and being a slave to the analytics or whatever, it kind of takes away some of your personality. And it's all about, I know we were speaking over breakfast, it's just about being engaging and having the right information in the right way.
And if you're not you, if you were getting stressed about, if I say this or I do this way, YouTube doesn't like it or the viewers don't like it, and then all of a sudden you change that up, but that's not you. So then it comes across as forced, and you're trying to force yourself to be someone you're not. and then all of a sudden the video feels really like clunky and a bit like you can see yourself trying to change who you are for the video. And yeah, it is. You've got to be true to yourself, definitely, and just work with what you are. You're your only you.
Yes.
Isn't it? And that's a nice little. I don't know where it came from. I can just remember in my early days of YouTube, someone on a podcast or something that I was watching were like, there's hundreds of people doing the same thing as you, but you are your only you.
Yeah, there's only one you.
Yeah, and so the way you do things, the way you present things, the way you talk about things, like me and you could probably film the same video now here, and both of them would be completely different in the way of like the structure, the way and what you pick up on.
Be careful what you wish for on that.
I wonder where you were going. But yeah, it is. It's a cool thing to be part of, but it can be stressful if you let it get to you.
But it's not the fish, interestingly. It's not the fish that's the most stressful part.
No.
Yeah.
Do you know what, as well, actually, a time thing would be my thing as well. Like, when you set up an aquarium, you're thinking, right, I've got to film that little bit. So you move the camera and you film that little bit. And then you're like, oh, I'm doing a gravel, so I better pour the gravel in the bucket and get a shot of that. And then I'm washing the gravel, so I'm going to take my camera over to the sink and wash the... And that camera moving and mic and sound and audio, and that takes so long. And I would have probably built 100 aquariums in my house now if I wasn't filming them. But because you film them, you do like 2, and it takes you like a week.
Have you ever got to the final edit and you've gone, oh, there's a bit missing there, and gone back and refilmed it to drop it in after?
Yes. It'll normally be like... yeah, it would be, like you say, like boil. For me, I remember one that I didn't boil the leaves. And in the video, I'm like, we're going to go and boil all the botanicals now to put in the aquarium. And then the next clip that I had was me just going, leaves and seed pods. And I'm like, ta-da. And I'm like, hang on, did I not record that? And I just must have gone downstairs, boiled up all the leaves, and not filmed any of it. So I went back through and just literally clipped some clips of me boiling leaves on my stove so that I could put it in and show people how to boil botanicals, because it was literally like me saying, I'm going to boil them a couple of times to make sure that the lot of it's leached out. And I've had to do that before. It's a bit trickier for you, I guess, because, well, especially on this leg of your tour, you can't really go back to where we were yesterday and start filming.
Yes, it's like you've got to be bothered to do things all of the time. Like, you can't just be like, oh, do that another day, like, I'll do that later on. Like, you kind of have to really force yourself out of sheer will a lot of the time to do things like that. Like, because it's a lot easier to be like, I won't worry about that shot. But it's worthwhile going and getting it. And even uploading videos too. Like, there's been times where I've just wanted to sleep. And I've been laying in my bed, like, just finishing off, like, the bio of a video and all of the hashtags just to get it uploaded so that my viewers can see it. And I've actually fallen asleep doing it once. I didn't make it, but it's...
You're, I hope you don't mind me saying, you're a bit of a machine, because even when we went out for a couple of drinks and a bite to eat last night, and even when we went back to our individual rooms, I noticed on your Instagram there were stories popping up, so... even like at nearly midnight, you just still...
But it was morning in Australia.
Away. Yeah, I don't know how your body's functioning time zone-wise
11 o'clock here is when everyone in Australia is waking up. So we were going to bed, and everyone at home is waking up. So you're just on a constant 24-hour cycle at the moment, I guess. Yeah,
but my brain just wants to be awake at night for some reason too, no matter the time zone that I'm in.
I do some of my best thinking at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, more alert then.
No comment.
You don't think?
No, I just do.
Okay, so Eking08, Matt, how has your YouTube channel and Instagram changed your life compared to working in Maidenhead Aquatics? And I'm going to open that up to Kaity as well.
Did you work in Maidenhead Aquatics? Did you?
I was just a bit quiet.
Oh, right,
you didn't notice me.
How has it changed it? It's weird, but I do the exact same thing. Like, I talk in exactly the same way now that I would to people coming into the shop. I think of what problems the people had in the shop, and they would come to me and ask me, GH, KH, whatever, and I make a video on it. So the information I'm giving is exactly the same that I've done over the last 20 years in the shop. But I just have to do it to a camera now, and I have to think about what I'm sort of talking about. So, like, what I have to do is exactly the same, but I'm just talking to a lens, and then I'm having to edit it, rather than talking to 8 different people in the same day asking me the same question. I can now put a video out, and 1,000 people, 2,000 people can find that video helpful and useful, and not have to worry about asking the question. They can learn it and get from there.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool thing about what you guys do. Rather than, as you said, maybe 1 to 20 people a day that you're going to be able to impart the correct information to, you can now give that information to people globally.
Yeah.
Because I know, Kaity, you're Australian based, but your channel goes around the world, doesn't it? It's like it's viewed in pretty much every continent. Same with you, Matt.
That's the weird thing that you don't, like, a lot of non-YouTube people don't really see, is they see you as a, English or Australian or whatever, and they sort of think that your channel is that, but actually, like, your channels are so much bigger than that. Like, I remember I had a viewer, there was one early days of my YouTube channel, I remember there was one person tuning in from Nepal, and I could see him, he was always at the bottom, I say him, her, whoever it was, thank you. But they were always tuning in from Nepal, and I could see them at the bottom of my, like, leaderboard of countries that were watching me, and there was always this one view in Nepal that was there pretty much regularly. Awesome, and it was quite cool. I was just like, it was mad to see this one person from there, and then all over the world, like, there was just, some countries I'd never heard of, that I'm like, where's that?
I bet they're sat there in Nepal going, why is this bearded idiot keep coming up on my YouTube channel?
I don't even keep fish. Yeah, what's he talking about? But no, it's quite cool. But as it's changed it for my life, like, I get to, like, I've got a young boy, so that was my main goal, was actually, if I do YouTube, I can spend more time with him. I can, I don't have to do the 9 to 6. I can do the 9 to 2, and then I can have a few hours with him, and then he can go to bed, and I can then pick up my work where he's left off. So for, like, quality of life-wise, it's been amazing. It's been one of the best things, because it couldn't have come at a worse time because of my boy being born, and that's a stressful time, but also a great time because it just works so well. But yeah, it's amazing. But my ultimate goal for this whole thing has been, I can help 1,000 people a day rather than help the 10 people that I could spend maybe half an hour with. And as much as that face-to-face interaction is amazing and I miss it, actually, for the greater good of the fish-keeping community, as it were, it's better that we can try and promote it to more people easily and get more people succeeding. And
I guess, Kaity, your route into it is slightly different. Whereas Fish Shop Matt started as a retailer, working in a local fish store, your angle is purely hobbyist, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you've not come from a store, you just set up your tank and just wanted to speak to people about it, just share what you were doing.
Yeah.
Which is just as cool, to be fair, because it comes from a completely different angle. Matt and I's historic training through, be it the company that you've worked for or the college or the educational authority that you've gone through, yours is like self-taught, but by people like Matt, in stores and reading and stuff. So I guess it gives you a slightly different focus or a slightly different angle in the way that you're doing it. And like we said, every bit of information is, as long as it's true and accurate and right, is so important. So I just think it's great.
Yeah, I think, like, for you, I think the cool thing that I see from YouTubers that come from the hobbyist side of things is your questions that you would have, like, so if we were to do a review on the same fish tank, I know that there'd be things that you'd be like, oh, I really wanted to know how that worked, or I really wanted to know how that came apart. Whereas me in my fish shop brain would be like, oh, I would want to know this, and this, and how thick the glass is, or whatever. And I think that's the cool thing is, if everyone's doing these reviews on different products, everyone's going to have such a different perspective of what they wanted to know when they were first fish keeping, what you wanted to find out from a video, and that will change how your videos are made compared to mine, sort of thing.
Yes, yeah, and on top of that too, I would even add lifestyle too. Like your lifestyle, that's going to depend on what tank you want as well, or exactly. What tank you want will depend on that. And then I think as well, like your mobility too, like it's good to have that diversity, like as being someone who is not particularly strong as well. So that was something I had to take into account.
I've carried your
You
gimbal
saw me
yesterday,
with my luggage
and
as
it's
well.
and it's like 35 kilos. Your camera set up. My arm was shaking by the end of it. So
I think I just have muscles specifically for my
for the
gimbal
for the,
now
for
at
the
this point.
camera.
But that was something that I had to consider too, like with my canister filters and everything.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I need a canister filter that I can make sure that I can actually like maintain it, that I
Yeah.
can lift it. And I was like, I need to make sure that I can drain my tanks, that I'm not needing to put things into buckets and stuff. So I think I always come at it from an angle of efficiency and ease as well, and also having a busy lifestyle too.
That's a great
big
point.
part of the tanks that I keep and why I choose those tanks too.
Yeah, no, that's a cool point because I didn't think of that. It would change like how you set up a tank and how you want to do maintenance compared to like, yeah, I wouldn't now, but I used to, like, when I had a saltwater tank, I'd lift 25-litre barrels of salt water up and pour them into the top of the tank.
That's why I don't do saltwater tanks.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
do that now. I'd put it on the floor with a pump in it.
And that's like one of the coolest things about this hobby is everybody gets something slightly different out of it, be it the sort of stimulation, if for want of a better word, of maintaining life, or be it I know there's huge studies on mental health and the benefits of fish keeping towards mental health. And I know that's something, Kaity, that you're really passionate about as well, and the benefits that people can get from fish keeping. And do you know what, as well? Just the point that, you know, you're from the other side of the world. Matt and I, we live 45 minutes or so away from each other, but it gives us the opportunity to sit around a table in an office in southeast of England and talk about fish and fish keeping and the global influence that it has. I just think it's fabulous.
Yes, it's cool. It is it's great that it's opened it up to the world, really.
Yeah. So, Kaity, tell us a little bit about your trip. So, you're here with us in southeast England today. I know you're jetting out tomorrow after just about jetting in a few days ago. Tell me about your trip so far. Who you've seen, where you've been.
So, well, I flew into LA. So, because I'm from Brisbane, so that's southeast Queensland, for anyone that's not familiar with Australia. So you go straight across the Pacific Ocean to LA, and then I didn't really do anything there except get my Visa card stolen. That was the only thing that happened there.
Fantastic.
It's a small issue. Then I went to Toronto in Canada, and I collaborated with Gordon there from Aquarium Talk TV. Thank you, Gordon, if you're watching this. And that was really awesome. He took me to Niagara Falls, got to see that. Wow. Yeah, it was awesome. And then we went to some aquarium stores there as well. Nice. So I think it was Planted Aquaria and Fanatics too, which they're going to be awesome videos.
Oh, nice.
Really excited to upload them, especially the African cichlids at Fanatics. It's going to be cool. Then I went to Nova Scotia, so King of DIY and Tamara there too. And then from there, I came to Edinburgh just as a stopover. That's Scotland. Only realised it was Scotland when I was on the plane, and they were like, "Welcome to Scotland." And I was like, "Oh, I hope I'm in the right place." I'm like, pretty sure you guys are from England. I was like, but it was all good. Then Bristol, and so on. And then we drove across the country here and got to see the Stonehenge as well, which is very cool.
Yeah, cool. So, saying that you've been into stores in the States and into Canada. And obviously, we visited some stores yesterday. Thank you very much to the stores that let us come in and visit yesterday. How are the stores different in the UK compared with maybe Australia or the States or the stores that you've seen? I'd be really interested in the differences that you've seen.
Yeah, so I forgot to mention the stores too. So we went to the Garden Society. And there's another name for the aquarium section of that.
Nature Collective.
Nature Collective, that was awesome. Yeah. Yep, Sam Baker there we saw. And then we went to one other store as well.
So we went to Porton.
Yeah.
So that was the first store that we went with the big blue fish house.
Yes.
And the big koi pond outside and the sturgeon.
Koi.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so jealous you guys have koi here. But the difference would be, I don't know, everyone always says when I go and do store tours in Australia, they're like, wow, you have so much, like, in big stores and stuff. I don't know, like, Canada was awesome. Like, they had heaps of variety. Like, the Planter store, I think, that is one of the only planted aquarium stores. So I think I did go to the best ones that there was. And then Fanatics also huge, like, the biggest variety of African cichlids I've ever seen. And then here as well, I think I just get, like, everyone keeps taking me to the best stores. So even here too, like, that was amazing. Like, I've never seen anything like the Garden Collective in my life. They have cabaret in the aquarium store, like next door in a restaurant and everything. Like, that was just insane. But even where we saw the koi as well, like, I guess the stores are just bigger than most of the ones that I have locally, and more variety of fish too, because they are quite restrictive in Australia on the fish that you can actually import. So more expensive for some that I think have been smuggled in maybe and then not bred previously. Yeah.
I was gonna touch on that because I know yesterday when we were looking at some of the fish, you were saying, "Wow, that's super cheap compared with what we can get at home." So, did you see much variant in price? Were things generally the same, or was there like certain fish that jumped out? Vice versa, like cheaper in Australia than they are here?
No, I think everything was cheaper here.
Yeah,
like even plecos, like that.
I was going to say the blue phantom
pleco, that's like $1,000 in Australia. I think we had like 5 of them at one point, and here they're like £85. Or
I've seen them anywhere from about 65 to about 100, depending on what size and what colour it is. So it's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and more types of fish here as well.
And in theory, the exchange rate we were working out is like half, isn't it? So in theory, like £100 fish here should, in theory, work out as a $200 wouldn't it? Yeah.
I can't do math.
That's right. But yeah, $200 fish, wouldn't it? But you're saying that £100 fish would be $1,000 fish, which is crazy. But I guess that's import restrictions, different paperwork, and all sorts of stuff.
We've actually got another question on that from nanolab.aq. What fish are difficult or impossible to get or really expensive in the Australian hobby, and why? And I think you guys just touched on that. The fact that, we think we're an expensive island here in the UK. Australia's further away from everything, apart from your own native fish.
To be fair, you've got some awesome native fish, so that is quite cool. But dwarf puffers were another one, or pea puffers. They're like hundreds of dollars in Australia, aren't they?
They were $500 in COVID, but people have started to breed them, so you're seeing them now for like $75 to $100, so a bit cheaper now.
They're like a 5, 6, maybe £7 fish if you've got a standard size one.
Saltwater fish, no issues with that though, because a lot of the saltwater fish in the hobby actually get transported from Australia, from the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I think there was a question about native fish.
Yeah, so this actually was a question from Paul, our managing director.
Interesting.
Paul asked, living in Australia, there must be some cool, wild, native freshwater fish. The rainbow fish springs to mind. Are you allowed to catch fish from the wild for your aquariums?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, there's some regulations around it. So I believe you can catch, I think it's like 20 from the wild of most rainbow fish. And you can keep 20 at a time that you've caught from the wild. So you can't be like, I'm going to go on Monday, catch 20, then Wednesday, catch another 20 and just build them up like that. So you can keep around that many. And then you can't sell the ones that you catch. But if they breed, then I believe that you can sell those ones.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there are some types that you cannot take from the wild, or like in particular areas you might not be able to.
Protected species sort of thing.
Yes, but in general they're pretty liberal with it. Like most you'll be able to keep in your tank.
So, forgive me if this is something you've already done. Have you done a video on YouTube of catch? Oh, amazing!
Yeah, check
Put
it
a
out
link
on
up to
Kaity
that
Cichlid.
video.
Yeah, I've done a few. So I did some collaborations with Keeping Fish Simple in Australia, and then I've gone out on my own and done a couple of videos too.
I remember watching the last one that you were setting some like traps in a river near you.
Yes.
And then you took your drone down through the river and you were worried about hitting the trees. I just remember that bit that sticks out in my mind. But like you were pulling out fish out of that river and I'm like, that's a £10 fish. That's a £20 fish. I was like, we've got. Well, we were talking about doing a little fishing trip here, but we've literally got sticklebacks and minnows, which are grey, and there's not many.
In fairness, most native fish in the UK are largely either olive green or grey bodied.
Until they breed, and then they go a bit colourful.
You might see some coloration in fins, or like Matt said, at breeding time of year, but generally they're fairly uninspiring. So yeah, that's crazy.
That's weird, actually. The warmer or like the closer to the equator that you get, it seems to be the more colourful fish.
So I've not even delved into it, but I was having this discussion with a friend the other day where we were like trying to work out where the more colourful fish are, and like the further you go away, does it get greyer and greyer, or there's got to be something to it because it can't be. You know, you've not got like bright blue and bright red rocks in your river that they need to camouflage against. You know, surely their better colours would be drab. But yeah, I'm sure there is some scientific reasoning behind the colours of different.
Could be the
fish.
sun too, or something.
They got a nice tan.
Because I do know that the fish colour up more in the sun. That's for sure.
I did have to turn the saturation up on my face when I was making a picture of both of us because I was like Casper the Friendly Ghost. I was literally so white and you were so tan. I'm like, can't be having that. I'll turn the saturation up a bit on my photo. It's fine.
Is that why I ended up pink?
No, that wasn't mine. That was. I think that was Jono's fault behind the camera. Jono turned you pink.
I have a question here from L Paul CK17. What are the safe ways to collect rainwater to use in your aquarium?
I went into this in a pond video recently when I was cleaning my pond out. I sort of touched on rainwater and talking about it. Personally, I don't think there is a safe way. Just because, so last year we had that Saharan rainstorm that carried all the dust over from the Sahara, and literally our cars were
dumped
dusty.
It on the UK. Yeah.
Now, if
that's
you're
what happened to Paul's car.
Yeah, that's it. That's why Paul's car's so dusty. Yeah, that's his excuse anyway. But you're then putting that into your aquarium. And who knows what minerals and pHs and KHs and nutrients and things like that. And then you look at the roofs of how dirty they could be or what chemicals they could be pulling. The mosses, the muck in the guttering, then the half a dozen snails that have worked their way into your water butt and are in the bottom. And I just don't think there is a safe way of using rainwater over tap water. I think there are safe ways of doing it, but I think it's just such a changing thing that I would always be worried.
I completely agree. Certainly when I started on my fish keeping journey, stores that I was going into and interacting with the guys in store, and they'd always say, if you can get access to good clean rainwater, use that. I think fish keeping's come on quite a lot since then, and the understanding of water chemistry's come on. And we were saying in another question about hardness and GH and KH. Well, rainwater generally has got no KH. So if you're going to put water that soft into your aquarium, that could cause challenges. Like you said, Matt, I think if you're collecting water in a water butt, there is always going to be some sort of biofilm or biohazard of some sort in there. Hazard may be the wrong word, but you're going to be getting decaying algae or decaying. You get something fall in the water butt and rots, and all of a sudden you're putting effectively polluted water in. So much as historically rainwater has been championed, I think really now it's a case of if you need super soft water, get RO. Yeah. If you don't, just condition your tap water. And
there's so many better options, I think, now. It's just so changeable. It is like a tap water is a fairly constant supply. It isn't going to change at the drop of a rain cloud. But rainwater can. I use rainwater on my ponds a lot, because my nature pond just doesn't really need anything. That if the nutrients are in the rainwater, the plants are going to use it up. So I do use a lot of rainwater when I'm just pumping it straight into my nature pond because it's not going to bother that really. It's a big pond with lots of rock work in it. It's really not
I
worried.
wonder if they're thinking from an environmental standpoint or money-saving standpoint. Maybe
yeah,
definitely. I believe Nick, who I mentioned before from Keeping Fish Simple, I think he uses rain tanks for his whole store. Yeah, that he's got just to save on money. I think
I think you can do it. It's definitely doable. And there will be people out there that have done it for 40, 50 years. And it will be perfect. I think if I was to do a generalised rule over, if you ask me, I'm just getting into the hobby, can I use rainwater? No. Yeah, but if you're, Nick's probably got filtration.
Living off the grid or something.
Yeah, if he's probably got filtration systems on it. He's got ways of monitoring it or testing it or doing so many different things. For John sat at home with the water butt that's been in his garden for 25 years and he just wants to run a bit of rainwater off, I'd go no. If you set it up so that the rainwater is then filtered and you've possibly got like a UV on it to kill off any pathogens, you've got some filtration, maybe carbon filtration to remove any sort of chemicals or stuff that's in there, you could probably use it quite effectively. But the work that will go into making it good, probably just easier for 99% of people to pour a little bit of jollop into a bucket of water and straight out the tap sort of thing.
Matt, I know we've had conversations about this before through our retail days, garden ponds that are constantly being topped up by rainwater, and the negativity actually that brings, the negative benefit, if you like, that brings to ponds. Ponds are a massive thing here in the UK. And obviously we get a lot of rain generally. You're getting a lot of rain with 0 kH in the water, and you get all sorts of problems with massive pH swings in your pond. So your fish can effectively die overnight. And you look at the water and go, I've done nothing different. But because you've not introduced any minerals into the pond, you've effectively got a plastic sheet containing water, and you've got just super soft rainwater dropping into it the whole time. Before far too long, I say before far too long, that may be the wrong terminology, but over years, the water comes down, the KH drops so much that you get a big pH swing, everything dies overnight. So if you have unexplained pond deaths, always check your KH, especially if you're not topping up from the tap.
And especially with ponds, they've got so much leaf litter in the bottom of them normally, breaking down and lowering the pH and KH again. And it's always a struggle, to be honest. It's always a struggle. But I think, like I say, nature ponds, I wouldn't worry too much. Fish ponds, and definitely.
Yeah. I just want to keep on the word you say, struggle there. Georgina Asherman 481, thank you very much for your question. What's your advice for dealing with tank setbacks and getting over the constant worry and anxiety after something's gone wrong? Example, feeling like a bad fish parent, even though you've put so much time, effort and care into it. That's a great question.
That is a cool question. Have you had many setbacks recently, or anything that you've struggled with to get over?
Definitely. I find that anytime I have a fish die, it just makes me sad. It just kind of, I don't know, it's just a negative thing that happens, and it kind of puts a bit of a downer on your mood and everything. But I think just acceptance around that, trying to just accept the emotion and sit in it, being okay with it. Going, okay, it does suck. And it's normal to feel sad around that, and sit with that rather than trying to be okay, how do I feel better, straight away. Just go okay, this happened, and if there was a reason that it happened, try and work out, if there was something that you could have done differently so that you can try and help prevent that in the future. I think
it's learning from your mistakes almost, I suppose, but it might not even be a mistake that you've made.
Sometimes it's outside of your control.
I think the fact that you care that something's gone wrong is the most important part of that question.
Totally.
If things are going wrong and you're going, I'll just put some more fish in, it's fine. Great, you're still keeping fish, but the fact that you care that things are going wrong means that
you're not a bad fish parent.
You're not a bad fish parent. Actually, you're a great fish parent, and more people that cared and didn't just flush fish down the toilet or whatever. That's what the hobby needs. People just care about what they're doing.
Yeah, I think fish can get a bit of a I don't know how you'd say it, but they seem a bit disposable, because you walk into a shop, and whereas when you walk into the shop, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but you walk into a shop to look at a rabbit or a guinea pig, there's a dozen, maybe, rabbits, guinea pigs.
And they've all got gooey, big brown eyes going, take me home.
And it's the same with mice and rats and all of that sort of stuff. There's minimal amounts of them, and then you walk over to the fish section, and there is just 100 neons in a tank. And I think some people, they're sort of, the way their brain's tuned in is they see that as almost like a disposable. I'll just get 10 more. I'll just get 10 more, it's fine. But no, they're living animals, and the fact that, like you say, the fact that you care about them and you're trying your best, and as long as you learn from those things, and you're oh, maybe I've done that wrong, or maybe I've done that wrong. Maybe you bought fish in and didn't acclimatise them over a long enough period. It's all about, learning. And like you say, the fact that you care means that you should eventually, get to the point where you aren't having these mistakes.
Yeah. I think we've all kept fish for a very long time. Probably if we add it up between us, we don't want to think about that. No. But even now, even still, you still make mistakes. Yeah. Your lifestyle, your head might be on something else, or you might be rushing because your little boy needs this, or your work demands are such that, and you might try and cut a corner on something. We're human at the end of the day, and as long as you're doing your best to look after the aquariums or the aquarium in your life, then you can't really do much more than that. And beating yourself up when something goes wrong is human nature, but the fact that you care that something's going wrong don't worry, Georgina, everything will be all right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I'd add to that too, if you're someone who struggles with being judgmental towards yourself, have a look and see what you're like towards other people too, because what you'll probably notice is that if you tend to judge other people very harshly, you'll normally turn that on yourself too. So people can sometimes struggle to be non-judgmental towards themselves. Practice with other people first. Try and be more accepting of others, and that could be a good strategy for being more accepting towards yourself too.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's got deep.
Just a little tip.
Got emotional there. It's got deep.
Okay, Cycling Sean 3713 says, in your opinion, guys, is YouTube as a whole good or bad for the hobby?
Well, straight away, I think good.
Yeah.
Without much thought, though, I will add. But honestly, it's like anything. It's like a weapon. It's how you wield it, I think. It's what you do with it.
Great analogy.
Yeah.
I struggled to get that out of my brain. I was like, I remember this. Yeah, I think that it just depends. Like, obviously, there's some things that are maybe not the best to consume, like not just on YouTube, but everywhere in the world and on the internet. But then there's going to be things that can be positive things or helpful things. It just depends on what your goal is, your aim, what you're after, and aligning it with that.
Yeah, I think it is. It's for the best of the hobby. It gets exposure out there. It gets the information out there. The problem comes is the wrong information, or maybe the people not doing the fish keeping in the way that they should be, maybe. But yeah, I think it is a good thing, because we in England we used to have a lot of fish clubs. So you'd get 20 or 30 people meeting up on a weekly or fortnightly basis, having a chat and having that. You don't really get that now. Like you got the Facebook groups and you got the Instagram groups, but having these channels where you're able to show things off and film things and actually build a community of like-minded fish keepers is amazing. I've definitely seen an increase in like newer Instagram and YouTube accounts recently that are just vlogging their own experiences of their tank, and like you started when you went to your local shop, and I'm seeing a lot more of those channels appearing now, which is quite nice to see, because it's just giving voices to loads of different people and places, and as long as the information is good, it's good.
For me, looking from the outside in, if you like, obviously we're on YouTube as we are now, but not being a professional YouTuber or a full-time YouTuber, I look at it and go, look, if we're talking about fish keeping, then that's just got to be a positive. There's so many challenges to life or to keeping fish, keeping animals, whatever it might be. If we're talking about it and sharing best practice or best information and keeping people engaged, keeping interest there by people like you guys, without wanting to be too suck-uppy, but I can't see a negative from it. If I'm honest, I just don't see a negative. As long as the information's right and it's engaging and it's not putting negative aspects on any of it, brilliant. Let's all talk about it as much as we possibly can and stay engaged with it.
Yes, and I think there's the video itself and the content, but then the community too. And I do take a little bit of responsibility for making sure that the community is positive as well, like on my videos and in the comments. Because even say if I get a negative comment, and I'm not talking about constructive criticism, like where it's a respectfully worded comment. Like you can get some people who might just leave something that's kind of inflammatory or just rude for the sake of it. But what can happen though is that it's not so much about me and it impacting me, but I notice that it makes a community quite negative because people, they kind of feel like they need to jump to your defense, I think, when they see that, engage with people who are trolling and everything, and it kind of takes away from the positive aspect of it. So I do try and moderate that.
You've got to, haven't you? You've got to really keep on top of it, because it does it. It either starts a fight, and I've noticed it'll either start a fight, someone's nasty or, whatever, and it starts a fight in your comment section with, like you say, people defending you, Or the other is then you get the other negative people that are sort of lurking in the background, and all of a sudden you've just got this whole thing of just like, and not even necessarily about yourself, but it might be a product, or it might be a tank you're using or something, and just because one person's had a bad experience with it, they might have set it up wrong or done something wrong, and then all of a sudden everyone in the comments is like, yeah, I can see that's wrong. Yeah, that's definitely wrong. And I've seen channels where I've sort of looked through the comments, and because of the way that it's fostered, you end up with this just negative and
stressful.
Oh yeah, it's horrible. It's not what fish keeping's meant to be. You're meant to be able to sit in front of your tank, look at it, relax, chill out, and I want to be here to help, and you want to show people what they can do, and that's what it's all about, really.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, on to a question from Cyborg D5, and Kaity, this one's really for you. How do you sex OB and Mbunas? It's hard for me to tell. Thanks.
Oh no, I actually think you would be better for answering this. I actually don't know. I don't do any breeding, so...
No, so they can be a really tricky one, to be honest. Like, so a lot of the more tank-bred varieties now have been bred with colour in mind rather than natural sort of looks. So, yeah, so, you know, looking back through my books where you've got fish that were just caught out of Lake Malawi, and you've got, like, the male is bright blue and the female is silver, or... I don't know, the male is orange and the female's grey, and you could see the variation. Some are the same colour, but you could see the variations in them. OBs have had a bit of a, not rough time, that's the wrong word, but they've been used quite a lot in different breeding and things like that. So I've seen what I thought was male OBs laying eggs. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, it's really tricky. So... yeah, to be honest, it's probably watching them, watching their characters, watching how they're acting. If you've got one that's like hammering around the tank and chasing fish, it's probably a male. And then watching them if they breed, then watching who's laying the eggs and who's not laying the eggs. You can, and I don't like doing it, but you can vent fish. You can vent Malawis. So
yeah, that's a real practiced hand that has to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a thing that I've done in the past. You know, there's loads of YouTube videos out there that show you how it, and my books at home have descriptions of what to look for. And it is essentially, you turn them over, you have a look at them, and you can sort of see the shapes. But when they're small,
so it used to be egg spots on the anal fin?
Yes, so egg spots used to be a thing. I've seen a lot of females coming through now with egg spots. So the egg spots used to be the male-dominated thing. So they would have egg spots on the anal fin, and that's where the male and female go back end to end, head to tail sort of thing, and the female would think that the tail was eggs, so she was trying to pick them up, and that's what they were used for as far as I know. But again, I've seen females with egg spots and good egg spots. But I suppose, again, the more precise the egg spots are, the cleaner they are, the brighter they are, the more likely it is to be a male. If they're misshapen and not very bright, it's possibly a female. But you even get hormone-fed fish. Like I've seen a few shops where they've had hormone-fed female Malawis that are as bright as the males. And so you look in the tank and there's 40 males in there all coloured up, and you're like, you're not all boys. You're definitely not all boys. But yeah, it's a tricky game, to be honest. My thing with most Malawis, if you're looking at breeding them, is buying a group of 6, 8, 10. You'll more than likely get a male and a few females out of that, and then just separating. If you're serious about breeding, it's pretty much the only guaranteed way if you're buying juvenile fish.
So just monitoring, and that's the same, I guess, for everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
that's it, really. Yeah.
All parts of fish keeping. Cool. Thanks, guys. Okay, so a question from Art of Pick. How do you see yourself in your 70s and 80s doing water changes?
Well, like the year, so like flares and like...
Let's do both.
Let's do both.
1970s, Matt, what would you be wearing to do your water change?
Ooh, one of those flared tops, the ones with the frilly bits. Yeah, big pair of thick rimmed glasses, I'd like that.
I can see you in flares.
Yeah, Austin Powers style is what I'm thinking. For anyone who doesn't get the reference, like have a look. But yeah, Austin Powers, I think I could pull that off. Austin Powers with a beard.
And 1980s Kaity water changes? Would it be like mad hair?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'd have like short hair, maybe you'd have like a perm going on, little fringe.
Was Kylie Minogue the 80s? Was she in the 80s? Yeah, so that was all day glow and stuff like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Leg warmers.
And
you should do water changes in leg warmers, Matt.
We could do fancy dress water changes. I'm game for this. It'll be great. The camera will start rolling and it'll just be me walking on in a different outfit each time. Welcome to Gorilla Wednesday.
Okay, so the other part of the question,
70s and 80s.
when you're in your 70s and 80s, how do you see yourself maintaining all of your aquariums?
I think it's automating a lot of it, to be honest. Like, if you're looking at just having one tank in a house, so as your focal feature, that's not too bad, to be honest. It would just be buying a roll of hose with an elbow on the end that you could stick in and siphon it out the door. And then again, some way of refilling it via a hose pipe or a water butt that you precondition in your garage and then pumping it back in. There's loads of ways of making fish keeping easy. And I think in your 70s and 80s, I think you could still do it. The filters might be a bit of a struggle. Like carrying an FX6 might be a bit... Yeah, that might be a bit of a struggle.
I think you were saying, Katie, whether it was earlier, about how you've made your fish keeping as easy for you because you may be limited, as Matt said, physically by carrying like 50 litres of this around.
I didn't say that she was limited physically. She said she was. That's how that came across then.
Sorry, Matt, I'll rephrase it.
Yeah, I was going to say, the internet will be after me.
Rewind that bit. So, yeah, if you have... as you get older, you may be not as strong or you may be not as able as you were to be able to maintain yourself. I guess it's just a case of forward thinking and saying, like, I may not be able to do this, that or the other, or carry this, that and the other. There are people who do it for you. There are aquarium maintenance companies. I think an aquarium is something that everybody of every age could and should be involved in, but it's just a case of making it as easy as possible for yourself. Just because you're in your 70s or your 80s doesn't mean that you can't do that.
Yes. Well, I don't want to be ageist either, so anyone who's in their 70s or 80s watching this might be like, what the heck, I'm like super fit.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
Dave's no older
Because I think it depends on where you're at that point as well. Like, you could be 40 and be really limited as well, I think, with that. But if I think about just in terms of, like, if I did get to a point in life where I was having limitations in terms of, like, my cognitive ability or, like, my memory with things, like my body as well and fitness, I probably actually, to be honest, wouldn't have aquariums. Like, I wouldn't keep fish tanks. I would go pond. And I would try and have a large pond that took care of itself pretty much. So something like a nature pond. Well, you can build a bigger ecosystem in a pond, can't you, in a way? It's a little bit more self-sustaining, so... Yeah, I just don't see myself cleaning glass and doing, water changes and stuff if I did have difficulties, like, with mobility, I think. Yeah, but I love ponds as well, and I always have that in my mind. Like, that's my goal. I want to have a property. I want to have a big pond, so... Like, when I was working in the shop, we used to have loads of people that were, like... different abilities, different disabilities, I suppose. We had people in wheelchairs, we had, people... I remember there was a gentleman who was easily in his 80s, and he would come in, he had a big garden, he would come in and he would buy a pond from us every year. And one year I built up the courage to go, what are you doing? Like he comes in on a walking stick and I'm like, what are you doing with these? Is someone helping you with these? He's like, no. He said, I do all of these myself. And he told me he gets a rotavator, which is essentially like a petrol thing that digs up the earth for you. So he said, I'd mark out the area that the pond's going in, I rotivate it, I spoon all the soil out with a little trowel, and he said then the next day I'd drop it back in, rotivate it, and he literally would spend like 8-9 days digging the hole, messing around with it, but he would use tools and different things that meant he could achieve what he wanted to do.
That's incredible. Yeah. Isn't that cool, though?
Yeah, this is it. And I think... there's ways around it and there's ways to do it, and it's just working out what you want to do and how you want to do it. But, people in wheelchairs were coming and buying 30 metres of hosing so that they didn't have to water change manually and didn't have to do that. They can drain it straight out of the door, they could pump it back in. So it's all about using, your knowledge and working out ways to make fish keeping easier.
Yeah, perfect. Something completely different. Question from Aaron Rowe 39. Money, no object. What would be your dream fish?
Ooh. So some of these questions we did read, but there's a lot that we didn't because we wanted to just kind of answer on the spot.
Yeah, I've still not got an answer for this one though. We did talk about this.
We did actually discuss it, then I forgot about it.
Yeah, it depends what you talk about. Like a fish that can be kept currently, like...
Money, no object.
Well, great white shark. Done.
Mine would honestly... just be having a property with a koi pond. Yeah. Like, that's all I want. I just want koi. Or just a pond, like a big pond. Yeah, like what I want doesn't, I guess it's not the most expensive thing, but it's just what I want.
See, mine comes from a research thing because, we can't keep great white sharks in captivity at all. We've never succeeded with it. So money, no object, where humanely we could learn about them and research them and work out what makes them tick. That'd be just an amazing feat and an amazing achievement to be able to have something like a great white shark in captivity.
They can't live in captivity. Did you read about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the longest, it was a long time ago that I read about it, but it was 60 days or something before they had to re-release it because, they just can't, can't work out why.
I guess they're just so nomadic, aren't they? They just never
roam about and they're murderous, angry-filled cichlids, aren't they? But no, that would be money, no object. But then, there's so many cool fish that, there's flashlight fish from the deep oceans that have the lights underneath their eyes. There's, maybe not a fish, but octopus are amazing. There's so many different creatures that you could go down the routes. I
would just really like going to Japan. And you've seen how they pick the koi fish out.
You're just thinking about the flights, aren't you? That's all you're thinking about.
And the traveling. And I love the Japanese culture and everything.
That would be amazing. Yeah, me and my wife have discussed it several times about Japan and the whole thing. We've got friends out there, so it is amazing. Yeah.
Be cool.
Okay, so at Fins by FFG, great collab by the way, and their medication, as I know Matt will have. I'll start this one again.
You're right there, Dave.
Yeah, I'm struggling
You're
a little
right, mate.
bit now.
Do you need your glasses? Or?
Yeah, I do. That's the problem. So we'll start it again. So at Fins by FFG, great collab, by the way. I use a lot of NT Labs products and would love to know what are the key factors that distinguish them from their competitors, i.e. what makes them special or superior in their opinion. As for medication, as I know Matt will have felt the pain limited to a small amount of products here in the UK compared with maybe in the US or other countries, but somehow their medication seems to work so much better than other brands in the UK and reasonably priced. How do they achieve this? Probably Fins by FFG. I'm going to take hold of this one if that's all right. Yeah. Firstly, thank you very much for your comments. They are very much appreciated. As far as why our products differ, well, we have labs downstairs and the guys are constantly engineering and re-engineering and trying to find new or better or different ways of curing the problems that fish keepers may encounter. Pretty much everybody in the business is a fish keeper as well, so it's using that experience that we've gained over years of keeping fish and then turning it into a product to make fish keeping easier. As far as medications and what's available here in the UK compared with other countries, something that Matt touched on in one of the other questions is there's a lot of regulation. So we'd love to have our medications in every country in the world to help fish keepers encounter their problems, but maybe the specific country isn't allowed to have a medication, or there are certain regional rules or variants that doesn't allow the product in. We're working hard to try to bring our product range to every continent, to every country. So in questions like this really help us, but it's just lovely to get some really positive feedback. So thank you very much. And we'll continue to do our best to bring you the best products on the market. I think is probably how I'd answer that.
I don't think there's many other ways of answering it. I think one thing I would say is I'd say we are fairly, after speaking to people like yourself and people in America and all over the world now, I would say we're fairly spoilt for what we get in the UK, to be honest with you. When it comes to products and treatments and things like that, we've got, you guys being a British company that is supplying us with good foods and the probiotics and all the different things that you've got going on for you. I think we're fairly spoiled in England. I think, certainly talking with yourself about what fish you can't get and the treatments that you can get. There's 2 treatments in Australia or maybe 3 that are readily available. Whereas we've got boxes of anti-fungusum, white spot, anti-parasite, and I think we're fairly spoiled. I wouldn't move to another country, certainly with my YouTube channel now. I wouldn't move to another country because I just don't think they get it at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in my role with NT and being lucky enough to go and visit distributors and shops in other countries and other continents, there is huge variance in product. You know, there's a lot of very cheap product that may be inconsistent in its makeup because it's built to a price. So rather than the stringent checks and measures that we have here, it's maybe not quite as consistent. So the results therefore aren't quite as consistent. But then there are even parts really close to the UK here, parts of Europe, that just medication just isn't allowed. Yeah. You're not allowed to administer treatments to your fish at home in your aquarium. You have to go to vets, and you know that puts up some serious barriers to fish keeping. But yeah, I think I tend to agree, Matt. We're quite lucky here in the UK actually with what we can and can't do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think from a hobbyist perspective too, like when you're looking at the products that you want to use, the main thing is that you just want to know that it does what it says it does.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like with bigger brands that are more common, there's more trust there, I suppose, because you see other people using them, they've been around for a while. So I think the biggest thing, like when it comes to trying a different brand, I think would be just have a look at the company and see like if you feel like their ethics and the way that they're run, like if all of that sits well with you, and you know, maybe consider then branching out and trying something different. I think that's a big thing. Otherwise you're just going with the crowd, like what everyone else is doing all the time. But even just having a look and going, oh, you know, like what company do I actually relate to the most and what fits best with me? Because at the end of the day, they're all very similar, you know, products that are doing similar things. So it just comes down to which one you're choosing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the question. Danny Young on Facebook asks a question for you both. Who or what influenced you to first enter this hobby, and what has it meant to you personally as the years have gone by? I enjoy both of your channels. You both keep things so personable. It was like talking to a friend. And for myself, that means more...
That's what we were saying this morning, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Well, right. Yeah, okay. So you keep things so personable. It's like talking with a friend. And for myself, that means more than anything to reach out to people that and draw more from it.
Where did you start with your hobby?
Yeah, well, I didn't know about this question, so it's kind of cool to have it come up. I don't know, it kind of makes me happy to answer that and talk about it too. So there's been a few main people like that got me into it. When I try and think back in chronological order, it's kind of hard to know what came first. But I just do know that even when I was quite young, maybe even 15, I was like at school and everything. I remember seeing Greg Whitstock's ponds, because I love ponds, I keep mentioning ponds. So he really got me interested, I think, in nature as well. YouTube, I wasn't on as much. Like I was kind of like dabbling in it just a little bit in terms of watching it. Yeah. I think that Joey, the king of DIY, was someone who I just loved. Like I always was like, I feel like I would be friends with this guy. Like I just feel like, you know, we're on the same page. I really like the way he explains things and does things. A lot of respect for him. So there was definitely Joey. And then empty fish tanks as well was another really big one too that I just loved. You know, I found it really relaxing. There was a point where I just watched a video like every week, like of the things that he was doing. And it's just so incredible that I've ended up at this time in my life meeting those people and collaborating. Like it's kind of mind-blowing. And in that order as well, like it was Greg who started everything for me and invited me to Aqualand in Chicago after I met him. And that's the only reason I've been doing all of this traveling and getting into collaborating. I don't know if it would have happened without that. So like to meet these people that I've idolized as well, it's incredible. Yeah.
Mine's different. See, YouTube only came into my fish keeping world 4 years ago. I suppose I'd watched a bit of YouTube and fish keeping maybe, but YouTube really only came into my world 4 years ago, whereas all my fish keeping stuff is from family. So all my family members, well, not all of them, but a lot of my family have kept fish over the years. And, you know, I remember having a little goldfish tank when I was tiny and probably had no filter in it, and it was probably horrendous, but it was back in the day, and I feel bad about it now. But
I think to look at that backstory, if you haven't already, watch podcast 1, because Matt touches on his journey through fish keeping and how he got into it in pod 1. So go back and revisit pod 1.
You can see that. But yeah, there was then an 8-foot tank that my brother had in his front, or in our front room, and then we moved out, and someone gave me a 3-foot tank, and then I had 2 3-foot tanks, and then I had 2 3 foot and a 4 foot, and then I started working in the shop and just flew from there. And then, you know, anywhere from 1 tank in my house to 20 odd at one point, I guess. And yeah, it's a crazy journey how it starts. But mine, yeah, it's just, I suppose, different people in different directions and how they get into it, I guess, isn't it? It's weird.
Oh, well, I think maybe I misheard the question. I was thinking it was what got you into YouTube, but...
Oh, was it YouTube or fish keeping?
A question for you both. Who or what influenced you to first enter into this hobby, and what has it meant to you personally as the years have gone on? I enjoy both of your channels. You both keep things personal. It's like talking with a friend. And for myself, that means more than anything to reach people and draw more into it. Yeah, so kind of both.
I was kind of in YouTube brain.
Yeah, that's it.
But in terms of what got me into the hobby, it would have been that when I was little, we had a pond. And then my brother actually got a fish tank for his 18th birthday. He's 8 years older than me, so I was 10 at the time. And he got African cichlids. And I was looking after the tank for him. I just idolized him too, wanted to be like him. Got a little Kmart tank. You know, just went from there. So since I was, I think, 10, I believe, every year of my life, like up until now, I've had a fish tank. Like I've just always been keeping fish, my whole life. So, cool. Yeah.
So Alex L on Facebook, what does fish keeping bring to you guys besides your YouTube channels? Why did you get into the hobby and why do you stay? For example, Green Aqua has released several videos about the psychology of aquascaping. How would you define it for yourselves?
Mine's calm, mine's peace, it literally, like, it was, so fish keeping became big and a part of my life where things were pretty mental and pretty crazy. Yeah. And so the fish keeping element was the sort of chill out. And I think there was a few different things that sort of spurred me onto it, but sitting in front of a fish tank for an hour is probably the most therapeutic thing you can do, you know. Yeah. You flick the TV on and you get a bit of mindless, like, television or whatever. But it's not the same as, like... It would be the same as going and sitting in a park and just watching the birds in the trees, or sitting in front of the fish tank, or sitting next to a pond. That's the sort of thing. And a fish tank is something that you can do in your house and not have to step outside your front door and go and find the birds in the trees. You can literally watch them buzzing around in that environment. So, yeah, I think really it's just that. Peace.
Yeah, I get that, and I identify with that completely. So the most stressful part of my life so far, first thing I did was went out and I was lucky enough to be in the position to buy a big fish tank. Yeah. So I got a 400 litre fish tank and put a couple of Oscars and some like Sinos and Plex and stuff in it. And I could just lose myself in that aquarium for hours and hours. When you really needed that off switch from what's going on in your life, that was what it was for me. Yeah. I was lucky enough to be able to have that, be in that position to do that. So, Kaity, how about you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I always thought it was fascinating. I hear that a lot. People say it's calming. Whereas for me, it's kind of stimulating. Like, it's more about, like, I don't know, I just always want to be doing something, and I want to be, like, interacting with something, or, like, engaging with something. Yeah. And I just found, I was like, animals are kind of cool because people, like, I can't just be, you know, talking to people all of the time and stuff. It kind of gives me something else, like, to engage with and something to do. And I think that's why I like fish. So I'm not so much into plants. I just like fish. And so that's why, like, I would have a monster fish tank with, like, big fish if I had the space. And that's why I like koi fish and stuff. Yeah. I like that engagement aspect. And that's probably why I keep murderous cichlids that are quite energetic and active, because I just like the...
Well, they're quite characterful as well, aren't they? They all have different behaviours. A lot of the cichlids end up being quite smart, don't they, really? So they are a lot more interactive, rather than, you know, if you were to have a tank with 500 cardinal tetras or neon tetras, it probably wouldn't be as interesting for you, I guess. But yeah, it's different things for different people, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to feel calm. No, like I want to have stuff that's happening.
And that's the colour and the activity of Malawis and things like that.
And I guess that's the beauty about the hobby, is that we're all just getting something different out of it. And as long as you're getting something out of it, great.
Yeah, there's really no wrong way. I think, you know, there's no wrong way of keeping it. There's no wrong way of looking at it. There's no wrong type of fish. It's just whatever suits you.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, guys. Shihi Khan on Instagram asks, what's your best advice on smaller predator fish, such as leaf fish, butterflies, archers, etc.?
Depends what advice you want, but they're a wicked fish.
They are all wicked little species.
The worst thing is getting them to feed, in my personal opinion. Like most of the little mini predators, they tend to be quite hardy when it comes to like water quality and things like that. Leaf fish can be a bit finicky, but I tend to find them hardy on that. It's the feeding of them. Getting a good quality one that has been fed well up into the point of you buying it, I think is the hardest thing with them. And it's just making sure you see it feed in the shop, you see it. It's quite hard because I suppose leaf fish are sort of, they don't act the same as fish. Like you'd go into a shop and you'd look for the active ones and you'd look for the fish that are buzzing about, whereas you walk up to a leaf fish or like a bush fish tank and just sat there looking at you from the back. So how do you tell if it's happy? And really feeding is the only thing, asking the shop, what are you feeding them on? How long have you had them in? Can I see it feeding, please? Once you've done that and you've got that knowledge, then yeah, it's as with any fish, isn't it? Really, just your research and stuff. But they're awesome fish, and they're well worth taking the time to learn about them to get them to thrive in your aquarium.
So a question from Nick Frost. That's the guy from
Paul. Can you come over here and just read these questions out, please? Dave's having a senior moment.
Dave, can you see how easy I made it look last time?
No.
Oh, he's all hot and flustered now. He's got a bit red.
So a question from Nick Ford on Facebook. Why are some of the old fish keeping ways that worked so well and still do, i.e. topping up rather than huge water changes, looked down upon by modern fish keeping knowledge?
Well, I don't think they're looked down upon. I think, as with anything, things progress and things change and ideas and obviously research changes and we change with it. It's not that a lot of it's bad, it's just that we've worked out that things can be better or things can be different. Topping up tanks, I've still got a lot of people that I know still do it. They just, let the evaporation and they still top it up. I'd say the thing with it is it totally depends what you want out of it, because I know that, the more water changes you do, the quicker your fish are going to grow, the less algae you're going to have. Yes, okay, if you've got a fully planted tank, maybe topping up's going to be fine, but the mineral content, the KH is going to drop. There's going to be a lot of things to it that are going to change. And yeah, I think things just change, don't they? Time just changes and information with it. But there's still reasons to do those things. There's still setups that it would work in. There's still ways of setting up a tank that would work for. It's just that the majority of the hobby don't do it that way anymore.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It depends how artificial you want your tank to be in a way. Yeah. So I guess a good thing about our understanding now with the hobby is that we can keep maybe some types of fish that we wouldn't have been able to get away with keeping them like that with just top-ups.
Yeah.
Like my Lake Malawi tank, like the nitrates on that tank get out of control within a week because I have a crowded tank, because that's how you want to keep them. Otherwise they get too aggressive. And I've got no plants really except for some algae in there. So in a case like that, if I was only topping that up, my fish would probably die.
Yeah.
Like eventually, at some point, you just get sick, hole in the head, things like that. Whereas if you've got the same size tank that I've got, where it's 6 feet, and you've got a few like mollies in there or something, and it's heavily planted, I'm sure you'd be fine, probably just topping it up, and it'd be all good.
Eventually, you'd probably find that, like, I've got one of my tanks at the moment that I was just sort of doing less water changes with, but all my plants are struggling now because I think all the minerals have just gone.
Yeah.
So I'm having to now dose double, or like dose more than I was dosing before to try and bring them back around, because they just sort of, the duckweed grew, it got to a point where it just sapped up all the nutrients.
You know what I would add to that too, actually? Like when I was 15, I kept fish, but I didn't know a lot about aquarium cycles and everything. And at the time I didn't understand what was going on. I was kind of actually doing that with a 6-foot tank with an Oscar and a green terror, some pretty big fish. And it was fine for ages, like for years.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, this seems fine. Like, what's the big deal? Like, this is all good. But I didn't know about nitrates. And with nitrates, that's the end of your aquarium cycle. And so what happens is you get old tank syndrome sometimes from it. So fish can kind of adapt to high nitrates, adjust to it, get used to it. It won't kill them as quickly. It's not as toxic as something like ammonia or nitrites.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of get away with something for even probably like a few years even, but eventually it's going to come back to hit you.
Yeah, I suppose it's the same as living in a polluted city compared to the countryside. If you do more water changes, the water's cleaner and clearer, and yeah, it's I guess that's the easiest way to describe it, really. It's the cleaner the water, the better, really.
Yeah. I think just touching on something you mentioned then, Katie, about old tank syndrome, I think a lot of people don't even recognise it as a thing, but it totally is. You know, your aquarium, after an amount of time, a lot of the nutrients, the carbonate hardness is going to, especially, this is all being used up by life in the aquarium. And old tank syndrome, really it can just cause so many problems. So maintaining regular water changes just keeps the cycle healthy, keeps your water healthy, and then your fish are healthier. So
it's like maintaining your car almost.
Yeah,
like if you don't go get your services, like nothing's wrong with your car at the time, but you kind of need that regular maintenance, or things add up in the long term.
yeah, you can look at it, kick the tyre and go, no, that's all right.
Yeah, it'll be all right. It'll be all right for another few miles. Yeah, but I think it's sometimes as well, it's like people that used to do it the old way, I wonder how many times they would, shut down their tank and change it around, or they'd buy a bigger tank. It almost doesn't get to the point of old tank syndrome. And they're like, oh yeah, it's fine to do that. It's fine just to top up. But the person who then tops up for a year instead of the 6 months you were running your tank actually starts coming into problems. If you run your tank longer than 6 months, all of a sudden then the algae starts coming, or the KH starts dropping. And you've got to work out who to listen to in a way, because if you listen to the wrong information but then try and apply it over a longer period of time or a shorter period of time, it probably is going to go badly for you. Yeah, or you just equate it to something else. Like my Oscar passed away from hole in the head in the end, unfortunately. I think we all know why now. But at the time, I was just like, oh, just got a disease, got on well. Like, okay, that's too bad, kind of thing. He was old, but not that old. Yeah. So I think a lot of people sort of put it up to different things, don't they? They're like, oh, yeah, it was that. And it's like, was it though? Was it?
Yeah, it's hard to know.
Yeah. I think there's no wrong way to keeping fish, but you've just got to keep on top of it and make sure your fish are thriving and not surviving.
Yeah, just do the best you can.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Bang on. Thanks, guys. Essential Aquatics Cornwall. Katie, long term, do you think there'll be aggression in your Lake Tanganyika tank?
I don't know. So, because it's been set up for almost a year now, and I think that what has worked well is the Tropheus that I have are dwarf Tropheus, and one particular type, I think it's which one is it? The Golden Firefox ones. I think that they're actually not necessarily naturally occurring in Lake Tanganyika.
No, I don't think they are. Then.
Yeah, I believe those ones are man-made.
Yeah, they're like a colour morph almost.
Yeah, like a colour morph basically. And I think that what happens as you get further away from the naturally occurring ones, they've found that they're a little bit less aggressive. And so I think that that's helped in my situation. Plus just having a big tank, like I think 6 foot and above really helps for sure. Because, there's more room, the fish have more space. Like, these fish live together in the lake, but they have more space in the lake. So if you put them in a tiny tank, or even like 3 feet, 4 feet sometimes, then that can cause some issues just being in close proximity. And then I think having a bigger tank, more places to hide, get away from each other too. Yeah. So I kind of think that it will be okay. I think if it's been okay until now, and, the Tropheus, they've probably got a little bit of growing to do, but they're getting to that, bigger size. I think it will be fine, or just manageable kind of aggression, It's density of stocking as well, isn't it? You've got enough to sort of bother each other. I'd liken it to like keeping a group of 5 tiger barbs in a 30 litre. They're going to be angry with each other constantly. But if you put 50 tiger barbs in a 6 foot tank, they're going to be chilled out and they're just going to pick on each other. And I think it's going to be the same in yours. I think it's just they're going to keep themselves to themselves. I don't see any problems coming out of it. But then I will add, if they're going to be like my Lake Malawi cichlids, with Lake Malawi cichlids, sometimes they're just like a ticking time bomb. Like everything's all good, one thing changes and then chaos ensues. Yeah, the dynamic changes. Yeah, it can be one thing.
Leading on from that, really, have you got any advice for keepers of African cichlids if they're introducing new fish into their aquarium? What would you suggest? You'd like mix the environment up, or would you?
Mixing can help, like if you want to change your scape. So not everyone wants to do that though. That's the problem. And sometimes if you've got heavy rocks like ice, you can't really do that well. So the other thing I would say that works really well is I always feed my fish before I add new fish, and during as well, to just kind of like distract them a little bit. I also dim the lights down just to kind of decrease. Like after you feed though, don't ever feed and then turn your lights off. You don't want to do that. But just kind of that combination as well of just dimming the lights down a little bit so that it's not bright and really stressful, because it's also, you have to consider not just your old fish being aggressive, but the stress of the new fish getting added into that environment too. And I think that that's just one of those things that can help too. If it's really bright, they're probably going to stress a little bit more. The other thing that some people do is they add more than one at a time. So they might add, 3 different cichlids in so that it kind of diffuses that aggression and that focus. So it's not just on one fish. But of course, you can't always do that. You're not always going to want to be adding that many fish or be able to. So that would be the main things.
There was an interesting thing. I was talking to someone from a zoo, and I can't remember who it was now. So sorry if you're watching this, because it was your idea or what you do. They cut up pieces of PVC piping. And every time they add new cichlids to their cichlid tanks, they've got, foot-long pieces of PVC piping, and they'll drop 10 of them into the tank just to disturb everything. It's lightweight. They'll put the new fish in, and then they'll give them like a week with these pieces of PVC piping all rested all over the place. So it just adds so many more hiding spaces. And then after the week, they'll start removing them.
That's a good idea.
And then it's back to its natural rock formation sort of thing. But it just gives them so many more hiding spaces that no one has claimed yet.
Because they're so curious. Cichlids, like, you put the bag in and every fish will just come and they'll just sit at the bag and just stare at the new fish because they're like, who is this?
Can you imagine that as a human? Like, being entered into a room. I know, it's walking into our local pub is what it is. Yeah. You walk into the pub and everyone turns and looks at you. You're like, hi. Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, and that is quite intimidating.
Cool. Thanks for the question. Cement juice attitude. Are you planning on coming to Australia sooner rather than later, Matthew?
I don't know.
You struggle to come out of the West Country these days.
I do. I get to the border of Bristol and it feels like I need my passport. No, I'd love to be honest. At the moment, like with my boy being only 2, it's hard. I want him to experience stuff like that. So there's definitely plans already for some American trips and some Australia, New Zealand, and a few other places as well. So yeah, definitely. But with my boy being at home, I just want to take him with me. So yeah, it'll be my wife Kaity, my boy, and us. Because
not me, Kaity. By the way.
Not you, Kaity. My wife, Kaity. Well. It's really hard. It's annoying. Yeah, 2 Kaitys. But yeah, I'm definitely going to go. But it's just when, where, how, who. Yeah, one day you'll see me.
Shannon JN, what fish would you both like to try outside of what you've already done?
Seahorses. Just off the cuff, that's the one that came into my head then. In the shop, I've kept a lot of freshwater stuff, like a lot of, we've had stingrays and puffers and piranhas and all the big meaty things, arowanas. I've kept them all in the shop, and that's not something that I don't think I'd go down.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess you've ticked a lot of boxes through your background in retail.
And it's not necessarily that I may have kept them correctly, if that makes sense. Like I might have just kept them in a holding tank to sell, but in that time I've probably watched them and watched their interactions and maybe not been that bothered about keeping them at home. But yeah, I've never ever done seahorses through the sheer fact of them being a pain to feed. So I think seahorses would be a cool one that I might do for my channel one day. Yeah.
I kind of have 2 things in mind. So I'm thinking, I don't know if we can have them in Australia, so I'm not planning on illegally importing them or anything like that. But
you heard it here first. If Kaity Cichlid disappears off of YouTube, you know that she's tried to smuggle a fish into Australia.
Sturgeons, they're really cool.
Yeah.
They're like a prehistoric bony looking fish. Yeah, and they've got like a cute little nose. And you keep them with koi. That'd be cool. Anything that's like a big fish like that. But then I just had in my mind too what would be awesome. This might have been more related to the if money wasn't an object question, but I just thought of like an anglerfish or something, like having like a deep sea tank or something like in a basement and having like, those big anglerfish and just other like the tetras, like the glow, not tetras, glowfish.
The lantern. Are they lantern fish?
Yeah, I always think they're tetras.
That's it.
That they've got like the, what do they attract with it? Plankton? Or
I think so.
Like a bioluminescent.
Yeah, I've never read into them too much to know what that does, whether it's a signalling thing to others or whether it's to attract
I think it attracts
food
the
or
plankton.
yeah.
So and like the anglerfish with the bioluminescent kind of thing.
So I kept one of the colourful anglerfish, the warty anglerfish.
Oh,
so they're quite cool.
They're fairly
but they don't have
regularly
the glow.
available, aren't they, in the UK?
They just have the thing that hangs, right?
That's it,
yeah. Kind of like a snapping turtle would be cool too. I thought of them because they've got a similar thing to an anglerfish, but it's on their tongue. They wiggle it in their mouth, and leave it open, and a little fish comes in, and then they snap.
Yeah, I didn't realise there's a snake that does that as well. There's a snake that's got like a tail that looks like a spider.
Oh my gosh, I just had someone show me that the other week, and I thought they were messing with me. I was like, no way. And we looked it up, and I was like, no way. It actually looks like a spider.
It moves it like this, and then the bird comes down to eat the spider, and there's a snake there.
Yeah, crazy.
But I wouldn't want to keep one of them.
Well, I was going to say, where's that native to?
Probably Australia. Everything wants to bite you and kill you in Australia with regards to animals.
They're not that clever in Australia. They just use like brute strength. They're just like, I'm going to kill you with my poison and my venom.
Yeah, they don't think about it.
I'm
just going to chase you down.
Yeah.
But I think that question, the thing I'd say with like questions like that where you're like, what fish is your favourite? What fish would you want to keep? It always changes for me because I am too involved in this hobby and I am too excited by everything that if we go to a shop and I walk past and I see a catfish or a cichlid, or you saw the giraffe catfish the other day, like you see that and you weren't almost aware of it before, or maybe you had forgotten about it before, and then all of a sudden it's just like, want them. Like I walked past and saw some really nice white cloud mountain minnows the other day, and I'm like, they're really cool. I really like them.
Yeah, in fairness, we were in a store yesterday and they had this scape with the cherry barbs in. Yeah. Straight away, you and I were both like, oh, I love that.
And it wasn't like a cherry barb where you see it in the shop when it's just arrived. Yeah. It's probably been in that tank for a year, and the males were like Ferrari red, the females were copper orange, and
stunning.
There's so many fish that every minute of every day, my mind is just like, oh, that'd be cool, like, yeah.
And the unicorn fish made me want to keep
the tang, yes, yeah, he was amazing. Yes. See, and that's the problem. You're like, right, I need 5 tanks now.
Yeah, it's never ending.
Yeah, you can never have too many tanks. At JT Keeping Fish, I'm really looking forward to this. My question would be, where do you both see yourself in 5 years' time?
I'll let you take that one. JT's coming over to see me in a couple of weeks' time.
Really?
Yeah. So JT's from the Netherlands, and he runs his own little fish shop and YouTube channel from his garage, and he's like 17 years old. Maybe going on 18, but yeah, he's got a little fish shop in his own garage, imports fish and stuff. So,
well, welcome, JT.
Yeah, he's a good lad. But yeah, where would you see yourself?
Well, like I kind of integrate everything that I do with my life, like in terms of fish keeping and YouTube. So like as a whole in 5 years, I would like to have a property, like a large property with acreage. I would like to have a big pond. I would hopefully like to have started a family at that point in 5 years' time. That would be the plan. And maybe have some farm kind of animals on my property as well. That would be the main thing. And then
I can see you with the goats. Actually, you were trying to chase them down cheddar.
Yeah. So there'd be that. Renovating my house that I have. I'm not big on money really, but I just like cars too. So I'd maybe like to have a nice car that I really like too. Still doing YouTube. I still want to be doing YouTube, but maybe have. Still doing aquarium related stuff, but maybe also more towards living off grid a little bit as well. So going down that road would be something I'd be really interested in as well. I think that would be really the main things for in 5 years. And also actually I want to see how I can give back to the world in some way outside of that too. So there's certain things I want to do with that property and with the pond in terms of mental health related stuff that I want to have around that too. I won't go too much into detail with that, but that just gives like a broad idea.
Watch that space.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I am honestly not sure because a year ago I didn't see myself doing YouTube full time. And now I'm here and we're doing YouTube full time. So I'm not really too sure where I see myself. The thing that is in the back of my mind is always that I want somewhere that people can come and visit for aquariums and ponds, but not necessarily like a shop, like an inspiration style thing. So almost like a garden. It's a bit like the zoo we went to. Lots of aquarium setups, lots of pond setups, and just like a really nice location, like almost like my own little zoo aquarium style sort of thing, I guess. You know, I've done the shop thing for so long. I don't know if I could reinvest myself. And ultimately, I like educational stuff now rather than the whole selling of it now. I actually like showing people what they can do. And yeah, I just think it would be cool to have like a gallery open to the public where they can come and see different tanks and ponds. And
like a museum almost.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But it's not even like, in my mind, it's not even thought out. It's not even like there. But there's something there that I'd like to do. You know, yeah, there's definitely something there. But in 5 years, I don't know. Bigger house so that I can do more projects. My garage is getting done, so that needs to be finished. Yeah, I need more space for tanks. I do need more space for ponds, so that's the only problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool, thanks, guys. I think this might be a cheeky Aussie question from Bronzomble. Is the fish tank water secretly just tea? With a British flag emoji and a laughing smiley.
Only in botanical aquariums.
Yeah, cheeky boy.
Yeah.
I've actually been taking photos at every hotel in the UK that I go to that has tea set up because I think it's so funny. Like every hotel you go to, they have like a little table and chairs and like tea bags and little teacups and stuff just set up like next to the window so you can just sit there and have a biscuit and a tea.
Do you not want a biscuit and a cup
I
of
do.
tea?
I love it. I've been eating all the biscuits. I haven't had any tea. I just keep eating the biscuits.
To be fair, I don't drink tea at all.
I don't drink tea either.
No,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I don't drink tea.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think the whole world thinks we're sat here in our sort of, I don't know,
Yeah, and our top hats.
Yeah, quintessentially English garden with a
But
cup
that's
of tea.
true. They have those gardens everywhere. Like
Yeah, we just don't drink tea in them anymore.
every stereotype is
We're
true.
more likely to drink like lager in it than tea.
Talk for yourself.
It's like your tea gardens and your pubs, like they integrate with each other. Like
Yeah, there's a
you use
beer
it for both
garden,
things.
and
Yeah.
I've never been to a tea garden.
tea garden. I probably have. There's a lot of National Trust properties that I've visited, so I probably have.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also people in America would think it's funny that they also have kettle set up, like in every hotel room
Yeah.
with the tea stuff too, because I don't even think they have kettles in
No,
America.
they really don't. It's like a really new thing for America, kettles. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you
really
guys-
How do they
weird.
boil their water then?
On the stove.
Yeah.
Well, like in a
Take
pan.
forever, yeah.
Yeah, or they have a coffee machine. But because they
Yeah.
don't really drink tea, they don't...
Yeah, I think that's right anyway. Correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that, like, I did see a TikTok from someone that was, like, confused by a kettle.
No, not
and,
TikTok though. We might have been tricked.
Yeah,
TikTok,
maybe.
yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Right. I can't get over boiling water on a pan. It's like 1978 at my nan's house. So, thank you very much to everybody for your... sake. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching our podcast. Thank you very much for all of the questions that came in from everybody. Much appreciated. Thank you to Matt. Most importantly, thank you very much to Katie. It was lush to meet you, and we hope to see you again in the future.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me too, but I'm always here, so, you know.
First time ever I've heard the word lush.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was an English thing.
It is.